now of Hot Laps of Liberty, a Liberty Racing Review live stream, production, podcast, whatever this is. Um, so you can see there across from me, you got Steve Newbold. How you doing this evening, buddy?
I am doing. Got a new headset. Hopefully, everybody can hear me crystal clear now. Next thing I got to work on is this camera. And I've got a terrible camera, but it works. It does its job.
Next thing we got to work on really is getting JP a laptop that'll not die whenever he tries to
You
join us.
mean take off like Ryan Preece at the Daytona 500?
That's a little too soon, but yeah.
it's not too soon.
Um,
That happened Sunday.
But yeah, so tonight we're joined by a guest that is not a racer like usual, but still heavily involved in this circuit that we cover. And he's the general manager slash promoter at Montgomery Motor Speedway, Mr. Stan Narrison. And he's going to join us and talk about the Alabama 200 coming up on March 1st, as well as just the general, 2025 season. So let's go ahead and bring him on. Here we go. Welcome to the show, Stan.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you having me.
So, first off, tell us about this Alabama 200 that's coming up in a couple weeks and what all's involved, what fans can expect.
Oh, sure. Well, basically, we start the year off kind of like NASCAR does with our biggest race of the year. It'll be a pro late model race, 200 laps, $10,000 to win with some of the best racers in the country. We do controlled pit stops, so it gives these pro guys an opportunity to have that type of event. They don't usually get it. Usually we run them, from 50 to 100 laps, and we give them 4 tires and send them on their way. So this really makes it exciting. It's a big dollar show. The heritage that goes along with it, and the history is just fantastic from the folks that have won the race here, not only recently, but, going all the way back. It's just impressive. And I don't think people really understand, what all has happened here. When you go to the first one in 1960, and I love this guy's name, Crash Bond. What a great name for a race car driver. But, you go down the list and you got Red Farmer, Bobby Allison, Friday Hassler, the original Dave Mater, as I like to call him, not Dave Mater III, although Dave Mater III has a win there also. And, it's really incredible. The folks that have raced here at Montgomery, been a part of it. This race has been anywhere from twin 100s to 125 lap to 200 laps. It's been a super race. It's been a sportsman race. It's been a pro late model race. So right now we're in the pro late model world. We kind of decided to go that way just because we wanted to reward our guys for the support that they give us here. I mean, our pro late model division is fantastic. So, and then we also have the Modifieds of Mayhem. We kick off the season. That's our open wheel modified series. I love modifieds. I love anything open wheel. I like sprint cars. I actually like anything with a motor in it that is loud. So, I'm a true race fan at heart, and I love these modifieds. They'll come in and put on a heck of a show, and we're expecting some big talent in that division also.
Kind of dwelling on the 200 for a second before I move on. I was looking, the entry list for this year just got announced. There's a name on there. I mean, you talked about some of the past winners, Red Farmer, Chase Elliott, and some of these big names, but the guy that's actually a 5-time 200 winner, Mr. Augie Grills, entered this year. How do guys like him and some of these modern drivers fit into the scene of the talent there? Because there's still some great talent racing in Montgomery now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you take somebody like Augie Grill, Casey Roderick, it's pretty amazing the talent that comes out for this particular event. And, a lot of it is because it's the Alabama 200. A lot of it is because of this guy behind me here. People love to take home the bear, man. The bear is one of the neatest trophies we came up with. And, I just hope that my guy that carves them, lives a long time, because I'd hate to have to try to find somebody to replace it. But, it's like you said, Chase Elliott, I think that's big, 2-time winner there. Donnie Wilson, who, we all know is fields a Jack Roush field of cars, as I like to say. It seems like every time you turn around, there's a Donnie Wilson car coming at you. So, it just makes it interesting. Most recently, Christopher Tullis, who really has dialed into this track. It's one of his favorites. I know his dad from racing at Lanier, JL Tullis. So, it's kind of neat to see Christopher have some success here and be able to take home a bear. He came and practiced the other day, and I'm telling you, boys better watch out, because when someone shows up for a 4-hour practice and an hour and 15 minutes they pack up the car and there's no oil on the ground, they're pretty darn fast. So watch out for that number 12 this weekend. Now, there's also some other names on that list. Matt Craig, who has attempted this a couple of times, and he's knocking on the door here. He's usually has a pretty good setup. So, expect to see some big things out of him. Jake Finch, who, he's got a great career going, was in the ARCA race yesterday, showed you can shorten up one of those cars in a second when you hit the wall. I'm just excited to see who's going to walk away with the bear this year. And, if it's Augie, I'll shake his hand, and, maybe it'll be one of these new young guns that's coming in, a Carson Brown or, an Aiden Potter or one of those guys.
So
Steve?
looking at the rest of the 2025 season, what are some highlights you have on the schedule this year?
Well, our main focus is our Show Me the Money series. We run that basically once a month all the way through the season. A couple of events I'm really excited about: the Rumble by the River, which has our super late model, the Southern Super Series, and the Pro Late models. We tried that last year. Big success. A lot of people were really, really excited about that. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a financial, let's just say it's not cheap to bring in supers and pros for big races like that. But the fans wanted to see it, and I was amazed just the rumble that you heard from people and folks wanting to see it. Plus, you end up with some of those super guys that'll do double duty, which really makes it interesting.
So you also mentioned earlier the Modifieds of Mayhem tour, and I know you're running the show there. And tell me a little bit about that, how it started out, and what fans can expect from that series here over the next few years.
Well, it was interesting. When I first came here, a gentleman from up in Birmingham had contacted me, and he goes, "Why don't you guys run modifieds?" And I'm like, "Look, man, it's my first year. Let's put them on the schedule." And it was funny because I was sitting in the office, and I knew it was going to be a good turnout. And I'm sitting in the office, and my owner, Bobby Knox, he turned to me and he goes, "What do you got going on tonight?" And I said, "Well, we're bringing in open wheel modifieds." And he made the comment. He goes, "Well, you won't get more than 4 or 5 of those cars." Well, I told my guy on the back gate to call me on the radio every time a modified came through. So when number 23 rolled through, the 23rd card rolled through the back gate, Bobby was like, "Well, I guess that's the reason I hired you. You know more than I do about these cars." But, these guys were looking for a place to run. Mostly they're running up at Huntsville, Sayre. Those were the first guys that kind of got involved in it. And, we did that race. And then in the off season, I had a bunch of drivers come to me and go, "Hey man, if you put together a tour, we'd follow you." And so I partnered with Tim Bryant at Five Flags, and we kind of talked about it. He told me he'd run at least 2 races, if not 3. And also told me that we'd have him at the Derby, which a lot of people don't realize this. There's no other right now there, and hasn't for years, no other tour that races at the Derby. It's all his local divisions or Alan Turner or the other. So to me, that made me feel good because I know Tim had confidence that we were going to pull it off. So, we adopted the rules from the Gulf Coast Modifieds. I liked that rule package when I first got it because it was only a little over a page. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we have rule books that really weigh us down. The other problem with that is if you don't have everything spelled out, you got to really keep an eye on these guys because they can get really creative. But the neat part about it, Houston Motorsports Park has adopted our rules. Most of the tracks that run modifieds around us have. Same thing with New Smyrna Speedway. So, that helps us. We get some of the guys out of Florida that come and race with us. We even get some of the northern guys from the Midwest Tour. Our rules aren't quite the same. They allow bump stops. We don't. A little bit different body. But when we've done dual races, man, what a show it is. They qualify a little bit better than my cars, but my cars race a little bit better. That those bump stops have a tendency to kind of wear out the right front tire. And, our guys with the more conventional setup, they really seem to excel in those races. But, we run 7 or 8 races a year. This year, we decided to pull the points from the Snowball Derby. And really the reason for that, I don't want somebody to go to the Snowball Derby. We have 35 cars. Something happens, and all of a sudden their season is just gone. And so we decided we were going to do our championship here at Montgomery when we finish up in October. And then we can go down there and everybody can just go for the win. And overall, people have been very positive about that. They like that idea. You don't really, a race that big, you don't really want a points race. And that's the reason Tim ends his season before he gets to the Derby also. So I think that's a pretty neat thing. Right now we run at 4 different tracks: Mobile, Five Flags, Montgomery, and Nashville. Nashville is a great show. If you get a chance to go up there, the modifieds on the big track really, man, they are flying at that place. So it's pretty exciting there. And like I said, we have the 7 races, and we'll crown a champion. Head down there, and we hope to expand to a couple more tracks. I'm talking to 2 other racetracks right now, one in Florida and one in Texas, and you probably know who they are. And hopefully we can pull something off. It's tough though. A lot of these guys work Monday through Friday, and so even getting to a race in Pensacola on a Friday night for some of them is really tough. So I've got to be careful not to travel them too far. But we have some people. I've got cars that come out of Texas. Probably 6 or 7 different cars. Plus John Heil, who builds the BMF chassis, he's out of Texas. So you want to. We've raced there once before, and we hope to be able to go back.
For Steve asked a question, we had somebody in the comments ask a question. We don't get much of these, so I want to make sure that we highlight them. Jason Davenport asked, Stan, is there anything that you haven't tried before that you would love to see run at Montgomery?
Like I told you earlier, I'm a big sprint car guy, although we have had sprint cars here. We're still negotiating a deal to possibly bring them in the fall. If I had my dream, I would bring super modifieds in. I think those cars are just crazy, but there's no way you can get them down here and get a decent car count. I think out of anything that would probably be, if I had a wish list, I'd like to see super modifieds back on this track like they were years ago.
So to go ahead and hop into the next question, we talked briefly about this before we went live, but tell us a little bit about your past experiences and how you came to become the promoter of Montgomery Motor Speedway.
Okay, well, I came from the restaurant business 25 years ago, and I always had it's actually almost 30 years now, but I always had a passion for racing, and I was actually sponsoring through Damon's, who I was working for at the time. We were sponsoring Steve Allison. And, it kind of got me into the deal. And I went to Lanier one day for an all-pro race. And I met Randy Morse, who was the vice president of Remax, who owned the track at the time. And we just sat there, and I was cooking ribs for everybody. And, we talked. He found out that I was a regional manager with those guys. And he told me, he said, man, if I ever could get somebody with a strong business background running a racetrack, I'd like to do that. And didn't really think anything of it. And like 2 years later, my wife called me. I was working at Bahama Breeze at the time. My wife called me and she's like, "Well, if you could have any job, what would it be?" And of course, I said something stupid like male stripper, or just tried to make a joke out of it. And she's like, "No, really?" I said, "Well, I've always wanted to do something in racing." And she goes, "Well, Randy just called, and Randy Morrison. She said he wants you to talk to him." So basically, took over Lanier, and that was, let's see, 2000. I was hired, started in 2001, and you know, man, they were not nice to me at all. Because see, they remembered me from working. I actually had a catering company at some point, and I came in and did their concessions for them because I thought it was a great way to spend my Saturday nights. All my restaurants had more than enough staffing, so it was kind of cool to be able to hang out at the racetrack. But that helped to build it up too. But a lot of the racers just called me the hamburger flipper. Oh, that's a hamburger guy. But we came in, we did a really good job at Lanier. The car counts were great. Ran just about every week for about 23 weeks. It was a pretty grinding schedule, but I loved it. And they ended up selling the track, and Donnie Clack took it over. And we everything was good for a while, and then he and I just didn't quite see eye to eye on a couple of things. And back, I guess it was 2007 is when I left. I left Lanier. Then I went and did some sprint car stuff with the USCS. Helped those guys out. Helped to run that series. I actually ran it when Pete got real sick, and we almost lost him. So, but that was pretty neat. 60 some shows a year, running around all over the country doing sprint car shows. So I did that for a while, and then it's I don't know, it's just weird. All of a sudden, I got a phone call, and it was from my Hoosier dealer, and he said, "Look, man," he said, I know. I'm afraid this track is going to close down if they don't put somebody in there that can run the place." So came out, met with Bobby Knox. He and I had some great conversations. He told me he wanted to hire me. I went home, and they called me up and said, "No, we're not interested." So I was like, "Oh, you want to talk about disappointed, But it took them about a week, and then they realized, "Oh man, we probably need to bring this guy in." And so I took the job, and just hit the ground running. It was interesting here. They were still doing single file restarts and no inversions, and pretty much if you started on the pole, you finished on the pole unless you got crashed. So we introduced some things like that. Once again, some people didn't like it, but it's like I told them, you double file restart at the start of every race. What's the difference? You guys need to learn to race together, and I think it makes for a much better show. So I've been here 10 years now. Can't believe it's 10 years. And every year just seems to get better and better.
So let's see what we got here. So we've got a couple questions left.
Okay.
So tell me about here at Montgomery, in your time here. What are some of and you kind of just talked about it, but what are some major changes or renovations, updates that you've seen come to the facilities?
Yeah, that's one of the neatest things about this racetrack. Good, bad, or ugly, it seems like every owner that's been in here has done something to really improve the track. Going all the way back to Mansell and them putting the lights in and the walls going up, those type of things. When Bobby came in, when he first bought the track in 2009, he did the bleachers. They took down, like we call in the business, the broken down 2x4 bleachers, and put in a really nice set of concrete bleachers out there. So, that was kind of the first thing. When I came in, we just started working on the place, and, we've done all kinds of things. We put in a little playground. Last year, we put in the new spotters deck. But every year I try to improve the place, even if it's something as stupid as rebuilding the billboards in turns 3 and 4. one of the things I tell people about running a racetrack, especially one that's 72 years old, um, you got to put a lot of lipstick on this pig. You got to really take care of it, and sometimes she shows her age, but overall, it's a really sharp facility. I'll tell you, when Harrison Burton raced here, Jeff Burton pulled me aside one day, and he said, this is one of the nicest tracks I've ever seen. And I was like, well, I think so. And he goes, no, really. And he started pointing out things that really I knew about, but I didn't know if the racers realized it. Everything from the walls being offset. When there's an opening, it might only be 6 or 7 inches, but it's offset enough that you don't catch that opening with your car. Things like that just really make this place, great lighting, and a lot of times, I mean, one off season a couple of years ago, we spent the whole off season replacing bulbs and cleaning lenses. And I can tell you, I will never do it again. I've never been so scared in my life. And look, I'll go 150 miles an hour in a race car, but man, you get up there and that thing starts weaving back and forth. It'll make you get real religious real quick. But we've and even simple things like putting up the beer garden back here, a place for folks to get out of the heat. If we have a little rain shower, you'll see everybody gets back there. Folks eat their dinner over there. So it's just a matter of finding things that we can afford, because even though I've got a great owner, it's he wants to be able to go on vacation, and so I try to spend his money wisely, and we try to take care of a lot of this stuff ourselves.
Steve?
So, one of the last questions I have, the local racing crowd is the backbone of the sport. I mean, without those guys, you wouldn't be able to race. What can race fans expect to see from our local classes this year?
Well, I tell you, there's a couple of things I'm really excited about. A lot of new folks coming into my late model sportsman. What a neat division that is. It's basically the only motor rule is you have to have one. We run it on a 500 carburetor on an 8-inch tire. So a lot of these cars are basically super late models on an 8-inch tire. And I think that really develops the racer, teaches them how to race. So I'm real excited about that. The other thing, our street stock division has just gone gangbusters here in the last couple of years. And, at times it's really our show. We've got, we've got everything. We've got personalities. We got young guys. We got old guys. We got some of them that the crowd boos, and then some that they cheer. So it's the perfect thing for a short track. The other thing I want to mention is we're doing, for the street stocks, we're doing a tri-track Triple Crown, where we're actually racing on the April 26th is the first one here. Basically, we're going to do a separate little points deal for there. Crown a champion, gives our guys an opportunity. They're going to have one race here, one race at Pensacola, one race at Mobile. And that seems to really be gaining a lot of ground. These guys, they're not, street stocks aren't really the kind of car that's going to do a lot of traveling. So we didn't think that we needed a tour, but what we did need is some opportunities to bring our cars. And it's taken a lot of cooperation. I'd like to point this out, that both Eddie over at Mobile and Tim, they worked their rules. I made some concessions. They made some concessions. Our cars aren't exactly alike, but we think that they'll be close enough that they'll put on some great racing. So I definitely wouldn't miss those. You'll see some new faces coming in on that race on the 26th of April. And, our guys are planning on going down, and, I got a couple of them that are bound and determined. Charles Davis really wants to win it. Trey Huff is all over it. Last year's champion. So I think that out of anything is going to be the most exciting.
So my final question, and then Steve's got one final one after this for him.
Okay.
I know we've been talking about we're getting it, but this is actually my last question. I know you got food, won't keep you for long.
No, we're good, man. It's in the oven.
So you mentioned that bear sitting next to you,
Sure.
about how it was you had your guy carving it. Tell me about that trophy and why that's become such a special thing with the Alabama 200.
Okay. Well, when you always look for something that will be memorable, and also that relates to the state. So, I didn't know a whole lot about Alabama when I first came here, and so one of the first races I did was a Yellowhammer 100. Okay. Well, because I looked it up and it was the state bird, but it's a finch. It's like this big. It's not
Hmm.
very intimidating. So we did that one year, and then I started looking around, and I found out that the black bear was the Alabama state mammal. Okay, so that's how we got started with it, and I looked all over the country. People must have thought, why is this guy's computer have all these things looking up carved bears or black bears and that kind of thing. So um, I found this guy, and what was wild is the first thing I saw that he carved was this beautiful eagle, and he had a price tag of like $16,000 on it. Okay, so I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is not the guy I want to call." But then I looked through his stuff, and I found out that he had this kind of a cute little bear. So his name's Keith Hodgins, and he's up in Milan, Tennessee, and he does it with a chainsaw, and then he goes back and he does some hand carving on it also. And so that's how we came up with the bear. We thought that was much more intimidating than the Yellowhammer. And the bear, it just the first one we handed out, it was pretty incredible. Actually, Chase Elliott got our first bear here. And it was funny because they messed up the label, and I had to send it to them, and they ended up sending me a picture of it sitting in, not in the trophy room, but by the fireplace, with the little hat on and everything. So I think these things take a life of their own. Augie's got a bunch of them because he's won some modified races also. So it's a neat little deal. I wish I had him in here. I got Keith to carve me my own bear for the racetrack, and it stands about 5 foot tall. So
Ooh.
it's in fact, when you guys show up, I'll need you to help me to carry it out so we can do selfies with it out there.
Okay. I'm
So
down to
that,
help with
That
that.
could probably be arranged.
Yeah,
yeah,
that could be arranged.
so that's the story behind the bear. And now it's just, it's become something. I don't know if you guys saw that little article I did on John Bolin, but
Hmm.
he's a bridesmaid when it comes to the Alabama 200, and boy, he wants to be a bride this year. He wants that bear something fierce. So I got to be honest with you. If he's running second coming off the last corner, and you're in front of him, I'd say tighten the belts just a bit, and let's get to the start and finish.
So my final question kind of goes back to your days at Lanier. So you've worked with legendary people such as Charles Head, and I don't know if you ever got to work with Mr. Lunsford. I don't know if you were around at that time,
No, but I'm
but
good. I was good friends with Bud Lunsford.
how was it working with some of these guys that are now retired and they're going into different prospective Hall of Fames?
Well, it's pretty neat. When you look at it, Bud was a genius when it came to the racetrack. To me, he built one of the finest racetracks in Lanier that's out there. It was the perfect size. It was great for weekly racing. It was wide enough that you could basically, you didn't have to basket case your car. You could actually get out there and race. So it is pretty cool when I see these folks getting, in the Hall of Fame, and whether it's here in Alabama, over in Georgia. I'm just, I'm lucky to have been able to spend time with a lot of these people. Charles Head is, man, his voice. It's so funny. I'll hear his voice, and it just says racing to me. And so I think that people like him, and Ronnie Sanders and some of these other guys, to be able to have spent time with them, and some of the stories that they tell, and that I'm amazed that these guys can't tell you what they had for breakfast, but they can tell you about a race in 1973 and what happened on lap 15, and blah blah blah. So I'm always amazed like that. I hope I will have that recall here as I'm losing my memory. I hope I'll still be able to talk about the great races that we've had over the years.
Well, Charles can tell you what he had for breakfast. I know he can. Then he'll try to
Yeah,
tell
oh,
you,
he can. He
then he'll
can.
tell you about his diet, and then
Oh no, and and he'll pull you aside now, and get you on the program. So
yep,
we know all about that. The yellow hat man.
yep. Love
Well,
Charles. Studied under him for a little while.
Yeah,
I guess unless Steve's got any final things that have popped up in his brain, I don't have anything. I think I'm about pooped. I don't know what else to ask. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, Dan.
Man,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you so much. I hope folks will come out. We're going to start a little bit earlier next Saturday. Now we'll have practice on Friday. If somebody wants to come out and just watch, they can sit in the grandstands and watch for free. On Saturday, we'll open the grandstands at 4. We'll start selling tickets at 5. Autograph session at we'll go racing at 6 o'clock. So we'll get that autograph session in there. Just get here early and have a good time. I definitely think that this is, if you only come to one event, it should be the Alabama 200.
Agreed. And we'll be there. LRR will be there, and we hope to see you fans there. And if you are, interested in going to the 200, you can find more info at Montgomery Motor Speedway's Facebook page and website. And hope to see you at the track here in a few weeks. Thanks for tuning in. See you later.